Okay, if you needed any more evidence, an ounce, a tiny bit, that Trump has become an absolute parody of himself, I don't think you could do any better than this incredible moment when the state broadcasters over at C-SPAN tried their best to summarize a recent presidential news conference.
President Trump spoke to reporters outside the Oval Office after having McDonald's delivered via the online food ordering service DoorDash. He then took questions from reporters on several topics, including the ongoing conflict with Iran and a recent Truth Social post depicting himself as Jesus, which he denies, saying he thought it depicted him as a doctor.
I mean, no amount of calm newscaster voice that we've become so familiar with can make any of that sound normal. I mean, it felt made up, almost like the beginning of a Veep episode or an SNL cold open, an AI-generated joke, who knows? But that was a real summary of an actual news event during this presidency, very recently. And we're going to get to that Trump Jesus Doctor photo with Senator and Reverend Raphael Warnock in a second, as I mentioned to Chris. I'm sure most of you have seen it. I know Senator Warnock has seen it. But let's just take a moment to talk about the other absurd part of that absurd summary. The part where the President of the United States staged a DoorDash delivery of McDonald's to the outside entrance of the Oval Office in the White House. And you may have seen the images of this moment. If you haven't, there they are on your screen. When a delivery driver shows up with Trump's order and praises Trump for the no tax on tips policy that passed as part of Trump's big ugly bill. Now, the White House clearly wanted to portray that scene as just kind of a chance encounter. Trump is just a regular guy, waiting for his French fries, waiting for some sweet and sour sauce. Never mind the armed Secret Service agents or guarded gates that this delivery driver somehow just navigated and skipped through. So as you probably suspect and probably know, the whole thing was an attempt at a PR stunt. The woman who showed up at the door of the Oval Office was not your average DoorDash driver. She was actually flown in from Arkansas. And prior to making that 900-mile delivery order, she had previously appeared as a witness at Republican field hearings touting Trump's big, ugly bill. And she also appeared in promotional videos put out by congressional Republicans in supporting that bill. But even though this entire event was staged, Trump still found a way to make it incredibly awkward.
Would you like to do a little news conference with me with these people? These are not the nicest people. They're not nice like you. You know that, right?
I'll do whatever you ask me to do, sir.
They're looking about hormone straight and various other things. Do you have any questions? Do you think that men should play in women's sports?
I really don't have an opinion on that.
You don't? I'll bet you do.
No, I'm here about
pizza.
No tax on tips.
And I think you voted for me, do you think?
Maybe.
Oh, maybe. I mean, this woman was just flown in from Arkansas for an event for the press on behalf of the president, you, that is, and she won't say she voted for you. But later she did acknowledge what's hurting millions of Americans right now, certainly people who are DoorDash drivers, the rising price of gas. When reporters caught up with the delivery driver as she was leaving, she said that rising gas prices were obviously having an impact on her, like everyone else. And that's becoming a far bigger and more immediate problem for Trump and his administration than, say, pulling off a little McDonald's delivery stunt. So they don't have a plan and they don't have a message. I mean, here was Trump's perpetually optimistic economic advisor, Kevin Hassett, on how the situation in Iran will affect inflation.
Imagine if oil prices start going back down because the situation resolves itself somehow, then you could be looking at inflation close to zero.
Just imagine. I mean, if the situation resolves itself, inflation could be close to zero. According to Kevin Hassett, the economy is really humming along, as long as you can just imagine away all the problems Trump started by starting this war. No wonder that guy is always smiling. He's always smiling. In his head, I guess problems just solve themselves. Maybe that's why. But that was nothing, really, compared to how Trump's Energy Secretary Chris Wright tried to explain the administration's agenda.
Just because it looks like we're going the wrong direction does not mean that's the direction we're going.
Okay. I don't know if he practiced that one in the mirror. I don't know if it was written down. But again, just because it looks like we're going in the wrong direction doesn't mean that's the direction we're going. Is that a Dr. Seuss quote? Is that a riddle? We're trying to solve a clue? I don't know. But here's the thing. As much as they attempt to paint a rosy picture with very weird ways of talking publicly, it seems that Trump himself has stopped trying. I mean, the guy who repeatedly promised that gas prices would drop as soon as his little excursion was over is now saying the opposite. That, well, they could go higher.
So do you believe the price of oil and gas will be lower before the midterm elections?
I hope so. I mean, I think so. It could be, or the same, or maybe a little bit higher.
I think the anchor's face there, we just froze it for you. When Trump delivers that news, kind of tells you everything you need to know. It's Maria Bartiromo right there about that one. I mean, Trump's costly war is already in a huge albatross around the necks of Republicans trying to get reelected this year, and for good reason, because everybody is seeing it when they go fill up their gas tanks. And swing district Republicans are already feeling the backlash from their constituents. Just take a look at what happened when Republican Congressman Mike Lawler, a seat, by the way, Republicans need to hold on to with this very slim margin, he held a town hall in his district over the weekend. Now, just watch what happened.
With the war in Iran, you have seen a short-term volatility in the oil markets. And as a result, gas prices have risen. And what we are, folks, relax, calm yourself. And obviously, as the conflict in the Middle East comes to an end, you're going to see oil prices come back down. The bottom line is we want the United States of America to be successful in this war, in this conflict. We want the United States of America to actually ensure that the threat posed by the Iranian regime is eliminated.
Just relax, everyone. What a message. The president has only started a war he doesn't know how to end. You're paying more at the pump, or all of our men and women serving are at risk. Just relax. Voters are clearly fed up with Trump's policy decisions. It's almost, and I've thought about this, like Trump is actively trying to lose the midterms. Like, is he throwing the game here? And trying to make life hell for Republicans like Mike Lawler. And that was before Donald Trump decided that now would be a great time for him to pick a fight with the Pope. I mean, over the weekend, Trump delivered a long screed attacking Pope Leo. Trump said His Holiness is weak on crime and foreign policy, as if the spiritual leader of 1.5 billion Catholics worldwide was in charge of crime or running for office. That's not to mention that Pope Leo currently has a net approval rating of plus 34 among registered voters in this country, while Trump's rating with those same voters is negative 12. And as if Trump thought offending Catholics wasn't enough, he promptly offended Christians of all stripes by posting this AI-generated picture of himself as Jesus Christ, drawing outrage from across the political spectrum. Even Trump's own MAGA supporters blasted the image. I mean, this quote from a conservative writer who attended the Catholic baptism of Vice President J.D. Vance kind of summed it up best. Here's what he said. Not saying Trump is the Antichrist, but he's radiating the spirit of Antichrist, no question. The spirit of Antichrist. Now, amid that uproar, Trump deleted the post, tried to play dumb, claiming that the picture actually depicted him as a doctor and not the Son of God. I say skeptically. And of course, that flimsy excuse only invited more ridicule, because people even started posting AI images of their favorite TV medical shows with the doctors dressed in biblical robes. The backlash was so bad that for once in his life, little Mike Johnson had to admit that he had actually seen Trump's post. Mike Johnson, who has claimed over and over again that he didn't see whatever deeply offensive thing Donald Trump just said or did, he actually saw this one.
I talked with the president about it as soon as I saw it, and told him that I don't think it was being received in the same way he intended it.
How was the president intending for people to receive it, I would like to know. Now, that massive understatement aside, it's notable that Mike Johnson realized he could not just brush this one aside by claiming ignorance of Trump's social media activities, which is what he typically does. Because even he understands that this is exactly the kind of thing that will turn off the kinds of voters that Republicans cannot afford to lose this November. Today, MS Now's Alex Tabbitt caught up with a few of those voters in the Republican stronghold of Bradenton, Florida.
What do you make of this?
Personally, it's disgusting. I talked with my wife about it earlier. I mean, Jesus Christ is my Lord and Savior, and that right there is, I mean, I don't really have words for that. That's disgusting.
As a Christian, how do you feel when you see this image?
Offended. Yeah, I'm ashamed. I'm ashamed that he would actually do that. The man I voted for and trust.
Politics are one thing, but stepping into that area is a little bit different, a little bit stings for me a little bit.
I mean, again, it makes you wonder whether Trump is actively trying to sabotage the political party he is supposed to be leading. They're losing support from the voters they need most in the places they need them most. Tonight, just before we got on the air, J.D. Vance held an event in the swing state of Georgia with the right-wing youth organization Turning Point USA. And even in that Trump-friendly environment, it was kind of clear J.D. Vance was still trying to do some serious damage control.
I recognize that a lot of young voters don't love the policy that we have in the Middle East. Okay, I understand that. Don't get disengaged because you disagree with the administration on one topic. Get more involved. Make your voice heard even more. That's how we ultimately take the country back.
I'm sorry. That's how you take the country back? Take it back from whom? You're the vice president in the White House. The Republicans control the House and the Senate and the Supreme Court. You're in charge. And I don't think it's just one topic that voters disagree with you on right now. I mean, Trump is alienating everyone from war skeptics to religious Catholics to evangelical voters. And if J.D. Vance doesn't feel comfortable enough to defend this administration's policies at a conservative conference in Georgia, then Republicans may be in for a very rough November.